And good evening. Thank you so much for joining me. You are tuned in to Make Some Intelligent Noise, the Political Power Hour with Rachelle Wilson, and I appreciate you for being here. I am here with Trippi Congo, the new elected City Council President for the city of Wilmington, Delaware. Starting in January, there's going to be some changes at the table. So thank you for joining in on a very intimate and in-depth conversation with Mr. Trippi Congo. Thank you for doing this interview.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
We said we're gonna get back together, whichever way the election went.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we both kept our words.
Yes, we have, and I appreciate you so much on so many levels because I know that you're busy. You've got a lot of things going on, so I appreciate you being able to talk with your fans and the people who voted you to be the new city council president. Like, how does that feel?
Oh man, it's definitely an honor. I don't think that I don't really understand it yet. Like the impact that I want to have and the appreciation that I already have for the community. Just to have that kind of support. I don't like to use the word fans, but like supporters.
Yes.
People who just thought that I would be a great city president, and it's up to me and my fellow council members to do what they elected us to do. It's an honor. Like I said, it really hasn't. I don't think I really understand like the total impact yet, because I'm just still whirling in it, and just so much appreciation, and people seeing me on the street, congratulating me. So it's a really good feeling.
Yeah, well, you do have a lot of supporters, and folks wanted to see some changes. They liked the platform that you delivered, and so you got the votes for that.
Yes.
So when January kicks in,
right,
what will be one of your first, maybe second, even third passions to take to city council table?
First, I just want to present a new, a better, and a different city council to the community. The last 4 years have been kind of dysfunctional, and I want the council members to know, I want our staff to know, and especially I want the community to know that we're going to be a different council. And that starts with me, and that starts with me being fair, and it starts with me allowing all of my fellow council members to fully participate. So I think that once we do that, things are going to iron themselves out. But as far as legislation, we talked a little bit before we came on air, but I really want to push the envelope, and I know that council's purview doesn't really touch a lot of the concerns of Wilmington, but I think that we have to start that conversation in a serious way. After these 4 years, I want to be able to say, and I want my fellow colleagues to be able to say that we made a difference and that we started that wheel to turn. Yeah. Whether it's around prison reform, like we talked about, whether it's around education. Like we've had those conversations for years, but now I think there's the perfect opportunity for us to continue the momentum and the movement that our city and our country is experiencing.
Yes.
So I think it's really important that we just that we don't let that slip away. And that
when you speak of movement, are we speaking of the Black Lives Matter,
yes, we're speaking of
prison reform, the justice
reform,
system,
police reform, the justice reform, everything is on the table.
Yes.
And I think that as a council, we have to address it, and we have to address it in a way that has never been addressed before by any previous council. It's more than a conversation. It's more than resolutions sent down to Dover. It's us and our supporters going to Dover along with those resolutions to demand change.
Nice.
Like, we really have to be a part of that movement, unlike I don't think the city has ever seen before from a government body. And we're going to need those. We're going to need our our state reps and our senators who represent Wilmington, but work in Dover to be right there alongside with us. I just think that Wilmington deserves it. And I think that it's about time for us to really implement the talks and the conversations that we just had for decades. Like, the time for talking and research and data is over. Like, we know what it is. Like, I made a Facebook post the other day about a black agenda, a black and brown agenda.
Yes.
And what does the community think needs to be a part of it? And honestly, some people are like, we already know. Like, what it is. Some people are very specific, but they talked about education and prison reform and the court systems and police reform and honestly, like, political reform. And I think that we have to push that envelope and just be a different government body. And along with the administration, along with the community, along with all elected officials, I think that we can really make some change.
Well, if everyone is working together, I
Right.
absolutely think that work can get done. If there's anything I learned during the election season for the primaries, was simply relationship.
Right.
And so I know that the people in the community have a strong relationship with you. I mean, we
Yes.
love you. You're very well respected
Thank you.
and adored. But do you have relationships with the people in legislation in order to get the work done?
Not now. I don't. And of course, I'm always going to be honest and transparent. I don't.
Yes.
But I think that's a critical part of me being in this new role is for me and council to get those relationships and I have some, but not enough. Like I know, Sherry, Dorsey, and Darius
Right.
and Tizzy, and I know them, but I think it has to go a little bit further.
You just named
Like
half of the Black
Right,
Caucus.
right, Stephanie. But I have to begin to impact and help like those those non-black and
Yes.
brown elected
Yes.
officials to know how important their role, like what their role is.
Yes.
There's not enough of black and brown elected officials in Dover for them alone to be able to make change. So I have to foster those kind of relationships too. So that's going to be crucial. Not only me, but all of council.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are some people on council who are already a step ahead of you. They've already started making relationships with those folks. So if you all work together, then it's going to come together very nicely.
It will.
And so, you and I both know that the movement must continue from every single perspective.
Right.
Massive incarceration of the brown community. It really destroys on so many levels. When you take the father out of the household, you're left with children and young boys.
Right.
And unfortunately, you have seen those young boys
Yes, I have.
in the worst case scenario.
And I think we talked about it briefly before, but it's devastating. It's an honor that the families have chosen my family and I to help them through one of the worst periods of their lives, or the worst period of their life.
Yeah.
But it's heart-wrenching, and it's heart-wrenching to see children, like the same children, going to the funerals like week after week after week, and I just can't imagine growing up and having to go to so many different friends' funerals.
Yeah.
It's almost as if we're desensitized to the homicides and to the killing. So I think that's where the community has to play a great role in trying to reach those young men and women who are at war with each other.
Yes.
As an elected official, I think I have my role.
Yes.
But I think I play a greater role just being from the community and loving the community and realizing that I have to kind of maybe step out of that role of council president and just be somebody who is from the community and wants to reach out to these young men and women to show them a different path. Yes. But I think a greater impact is when those young men and women who have been in the game, who have lived in that life, kind of say, okay, let's reach back and let's talk to these young men and women, because I can talk about it, but I'm not going to have the same kind of impact as someone who they can relate to, who has already been in the game.
But you've never really been in the game, okay? That wasn't the path that you chose.
Right.
But again, because you are a man of the community, so many people respect you, the moms, the even the kids. But what would you say, and I don't know if this is in the realm of city council, what about gathering perhaps a task force? I remember when I was growing up, there was a thing called Churches Taking a Corner, where brothers and sisters would get on those corners all around the city of Wilmington and really just try to engage young people, and then all of a sudden it was gone. Could you bring anything back, something similar to that, and maybe use returning citizens to help with that?
Right, and churches play a huge role.
Absolutely.
In this, I don't know if the churches and the members of the churches and the pastors realize how important they are in making a serious change in Wilmington and reaching that population that only they can reach. Just imagine if the pastors in Wilmington got together and said, on this Sunday, we're going to give the same message about mentoring, or about financial literacy, or about prison reform. You have they have the ear of thousands of people who could get that message and can take that message and go into the community and help these young men and women. And historically, churches have always played a huge role in social impact.
Very powerful.
All right. So they really we really have to. And again, I don't want to blame anybody. I don't want to blame elected officials. I don't want to blame the parents. I don't want to blame the churches. But I think it's time for us to all to come together, work together, and realize how we can accomplish this as a team.
Yeah, there's been a disconnect for, several reasons. We can sit here and take up an entire hour talking about where the disconnects took place. But there has been a disconnect.
There has been.
And churches are extremely powerful in bringing that back together, which honestly, in the bubble in my head, maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist, but that's where we get the separation of church and state. Because state is very powerful and church is very powerful. And I think if we put it on a scale, we'll find that the influence and impact of the church is much more powerful. So the state didn't want that. They didn't want that to get involved in there.
Right? The church is more powerful than any elected position.
Yes.
Bar none. From the governor on down. The churches got together and said, this is what we want for Wilmington. Like the governor and mayors and city council members, we have no choice but to listen.
Pretty much.
No choice.
Yeah, because their power, not only do they get us with the ooh-wee of the spirituality of it all, right? Like God's going to get you if you don't do what's right. But they also have the masses of people and the influence upon the people. So I never underestimate the power of the church. And so my question would be, and I think it's self-explanatory, you have relationships with the churches because you do business with them. So you know the pastors and the bishops and the fathers and you know them.
Right, and I just have to leverage those relationships. I have to take advantage of them. That's something I haven't done in the past. And I have to do that. And we all have to do that. Like I know most of the pastors in the city of Wilmington, so I do want to have, like a town hall meeting with them, just to say, hey, how can we help each other? How can we help the city of Wilmington? And how can we help our children? And again, not to place blame, not to, I don't want to do that. We've done that for far too long.
Yes.
Right now, it's just time to come together, have conversations, and get those relationships, like you said, and make some serious change. And that's what I want to do as council president. I want to be able to socially impact the city of Wilmington. I want to reinvent Wilmington. Because no matter how much development we do, no matter how many businesses, no matter how many high rises that we bring, that we build, which are very important, if crime continues to go the way it is, we're always going to be labeled as we're labeled now. When I was campaigning, the top priority of everyone was crime in COVID, but it was crime. So we've done a great job with development, but we haven't done enough with developing people. And that's what I think our council has to really try to push the envelope on.
When you get that powwow going with the preachers and pastors and all at the table, please invite me as one of the journalists to cover that. I would love to cover that story. Yeah. Just be a fly on the wall for that one. It's going to be good.
And it's up to them to do the same thing that we have to do as elected officials, to kind of leave the past in the past. Yeah. And not let whatever happened between churches, between church members, between pastors get in the way. Yeah. We can't be divided. And then I think there are people who want us to stay divided. But we have to realize, like you said, that's intentional. Yes. And we can't let that happen.
Because you know what? The admonition for all of it is God's going to get you. If you do, there has to be a coming together. You don't have to be best friends. You may not even break bread, but you have to sit at the table and do the work. You have to come together to do the work. So I want to ask you on a personal and private level, you have a family. Yes. And a dog, and you have children. You have a child, right? Well, I heard the dog barking in the background. All right, my dog. So they're not supposed to know that we're friends. This is an impartial interview, okay? So is your family, obviously they're on board, they're prepared to not have you make some of the dinners at the table at night?
Yes, they are. I mean, I've always been extremely busy with the funeral home and, even with council, but now it is going to go to another level. And I talk to them, and they understand, and they support me. They probably were more excited than anybody that I was able to win. So they understand that it's going to take a lot of sacrifice, but they understand that it's a sacrifice that's well worth it. Because we just want a better Wilmington, We want better for our children. We want better for our businesses. We want better for our seniors. And I have to, just dive in and, gain relationships and learn my council members and learn the community even better.
Yes.
So it's going to take an extreme sacrifice, but honestly, I don't even really look at it as sacrifice because I love it.
Yeah.
So it's not like a job.
Right.
As they say, if you love your job, you never really go to work.
Right.
So, I love that my parents have prepared me for this moment. And honestly, I think that's the reason why I was able to be elected, because they prepared me from an early age to know, to understand what giving back was and understand what just being there for the community who has been so good to us.
Yes.
And people came out and supported. So again, I'm just really thankful for that. Thankful for my parents.
Both of your parents, a resounding bravo. I mean, they are amazing, firm, but amazing people. Amazing, absolutely
right.
amazing.
And they realize both of my parents, but especially my dad, realizes the kind of impact that we have to have on Black and brown people in Wilmington. Because part of my Facebook post is, if you really love the city of Wilmington, like, you have to care about what happens to the Black and brown community.
Because it's predominantly a Black and brown city.
70%. So we can't say that we love Wilmington and not pay attention to the downfall of the Black and brown majority population.
Yeah. And
the majority of council is Black and brown, but it's going to take everybody. It's going to take Caucasians and
yes.
Native. It's going to take everyone.
Yes.
Everyone to come to the table and reinvent the city of Wilmington.
It's historically, it's a fact, and it's very sad, but it is a historical fact that oftentimes things that would affect the Black and brown community don't really take seed until our non-Black and brown people get involved. In so many cases, right. It took our brothers, our white brothers and sisters, to get involved in order for something to really become impactful. And I do think that there's a time for that to change.
It is.
Where we can be impactful right. with our own communities, as well as allowing our white brothers and right. sisters to assist us in any way that they can.
That's going to take the whole city of Wilmington, from
yes.
the business community, from the faith-based organizations, the roots, the ground, people who are just kind of walking the pavement. It's going to take us all. It's going to take elected officials, but I think it's time for us to kind of put politics aside and not worry about, city council doesn't have anything to do with public education, and that's a right. fact. But we have to change that fact.
Or prison right. reform. Right. I think that's out right. of your
It is. Technically. But we have to address it.
Yes.
We have to advocate, but we have to have a seat at the table.
I don't understand, how can prison reform or education be off the city council table when it's the kids on our urban communities in our inner city right. That are getting locked up or right. Other situations?
I think it's done on purpose.
Yes.
Could you imagine if city council could have more leverage on public education and on prison reform? Could you imagine what the city of Wilmington would be?
Yes.
Like, we have a council who is 90% Black and brown. Like, we would make those changes immediately. I don't think the powers that be want those changes to happen, because there's so much money being made off of our demise.
Yes.
So it's done on purpose. Yeah. But we have to change that. We have to change that whole narrative, and I think now is the time to do it.
We'll look back on this interview, and I pray that you remain as transparent and as authentic in 4 years as you are tonight. Simply, being able to admit to the entire world. We're podcasting to the entire world right now. We're Facebooking. Anyone in the world can see it. And you are able to be transparent and say it is prison for profit. It is a setup. It is designed to be that way.
Whoever talks to the contrary is part of the problem.
Yes.
Right. Yes. There have been documentaries. There's been plenty of data and research around it. But again, I think that Wilmington is small enough to be able to make some serious change, and we have the finance. We have to demand that Dover provides funding and redirects funding to make those kind of changes. And we can't do it as a council alone. The community is going to be extremely important. Yes. Like, it's one thing for me to, for us who are elected to be elected, but it doesn't stop once you elected us.
Right.
Like we need you more now than ever. Like we're gonna need our community at those meetings.
So when you're ready to test the waters, put that call out and say, hey, I need everyone who voted for me to come to such and such a place at a certain time and just show up.
Just show up. I mean, I'll provide transportation. Like we have to show up in Dover.
Yes.
We have to go to Dover by the hundreds, if not the thousands.
Yes.
And let those legislators know that there's going to be a new Wilmington. And the time is now for us to create it.
I'm so excited about that. I'm so excited about that.
I am too.
And so I have to ask you the sensitive question.
Okay.
Have you had an opportunity to send a card or perhaps the flowers or make a phone call to City Council President Hanifa Shabazz?
I haven't.
You have not yet?
I need to.
Yes.
This is one of the first things that I posted after the election was how we need to heal as a city and as government officials, because it was very divisive.
Yes.
It was very personal, and it wasn't
egregious
good.
It
wasn't good for any of us.
Yeah.
So one of the first things I did, I reached out. Well, Hanifa did call me and congratulate me.
Awesome.
So that meant a lot.
Yeah.
But I I haven't always been on the best terms with other council members.
Yes.
But the first thing I did was congratulated them.
Yes.
And it was hard, honestly. It was hard, but I knew I had to do it.
Yes.
The people elected me. They elected the mayor. They elected certain council members. I reached out to the mayor.
Yes.
He and I haven't always been on the best terms.
Okay.
We kind of don't agree on a lot of things that happened over the last 4 years. But again, they elected him. They elected me. So we have to work together.
Yes.
We have to work
together. You have
together.
to be allies.
Right, for a better city.
Perhaps maybe you will be able to break bread
We have to.
and build those relationships.
We have to.
I don't have anything really bad or negative to say about Mayor Przicki. Even if I did, I wouldn't, because he's, on a scale of 1 to 10, I have to give him a 6 for being good, for being pretty good.
Yeah, and I do have, I need to reach out to Hanifa. I really do, because even at our first interview, we talked about how both of us, like she has love for the city too.
Very much so.
I'm going to need her, and we're going to need each other.
Yeah.
So we have to.
She has relationships.
She does
too.
She does, and I'm going to need her to help me to gain those relationships.
Yes.
So like I said, everything is in the past.
Yes.
Even with council members who I have to work with.
Yeah.
I realize we have to work together, and the community doesn't need to be caught up in our mess.
Yes.
So and I'm not, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not bringing that to the next council.
Awesome.
I'm starting off fresh.
I think that's maturity. I think that's self-accountability. And I would strongly recommend that every member on city council would be accountable to themselves and be mature and come together and get the work done. Here we have a brother who is really ready and willing to work and make the city of Wilmington a better city for all of us. So, we've got to wish him well and pray him well and show up when he asks us to show up, because I will definitely show up. I might be with my bandera, okay, and my fist up, because that's just the kind of person that I am, and so I will. I will show up. You make sure you let me know.
You got to bring 10 people with you.
Yeah, okay. Right? Every person bring 10 people.
Right, and we can. That's the only way that we can do it. We can't legislate it.
Yeah.
Because the system isn't set up for us to be able to legislate it. But we can make changes if people show up. And they just take, for example, the protests. The protests brought about serious change in the city of Wilmington.
Yes.
And if we can keep that same momentum, keep that same movement, sky's the limit.
Make some intelligent noise.
There you go. Good trouble, right? Good trouble. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope that you and I can continue to have these kind of conversations.
Yes.
I think they're really important for us just to bounce ideas off of each other, and your viewing audience can help me, because I don't know it all.
Right.
I'm a sponge.
Yes.
Honestly, and I just want to be able to listen more than anything. To listen to the people who supported me, who didn't support me, and to people who even live outside of Wilmington. Because at the end of the day, I just want a better city of Wilmington. So I have things that I want to do, but there are 13 of us on council.
Yes.
So their opinions matter just as much as mine.
That's Jesus and the 12 disciples.
All right. Okay. All right. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, 13.
So I want my council to be fully engaged and be able to fully participate. And I want them to be listeners also.
Yes.
Even, we were elected off of what we ran and stood for, but I think there's always room to learn more.
Yes.
And then that's where the community just has to show up and continue to engage with us and show us the direction.
Yes.
Like they give us our marching orders.
There you go.
Yep.
I love that. Well, Trippi, I don't have to tell you, I started this movement. I'm an advocate. That's what I do. I would love to see prison change. Some things take place in prison. A lot of things I'd like to see happen there. That's where my journalism kind of blossomed from there. Okay. So, I will always be engaged in politics because politics and the prisons, they kind of go hand in hand. Right. So wherever there's a prison or some politics, that's where I'm going to be. So I would love to continue these conversations.
Definitely have to. There's politics, there's prison, and then there's the population. That's the community.
Yes.
Who can change the prison, they can change the politics. I mean, I just can't emphasize enough how much people who are listening, people who will see this, how important their role is.
Yes.
I had no idea how high the recidivism rate is in Wilmington. We have, if it's not the highest, it's in the top
73%.
Right.
73% of every person that comes out goes back in, and usually they go back in because they don't have a place that is safe and secure to live. They can't go back to where they were because that's right. Volatile ground that's going to send them back, and yet that's where they go. Right. So, one of the things I'd love to see city council do, and this is me personally, I have a pet peeve about all of these vacant houses. Like, I just visualize in my mind fixing them up, cleaning them up, let the returning citizens be a part of the hammer and nails, and let them take part in ownership of the house. And I don't know how to do that, and I don't know what can be done.
That's
but you can figure something out. The money. I know that there's money, and I don't have to say numbers, but there is money that has been allotted to the city of Wilmington by the federal government in order to get some things accomplished. And, so I'm looking for those houses to get fixed up, and returning citizens and homeless people to get homes, to become homeowners.
That's where we come in as a body of council. That's where I come in as council president to make sure that those funds that you're talking about are definitely redirected, or at least allocated to where they were supposed to go.
Yes.
And when it's not, it can't be a quiet conversation between me and whoever's not doing it. Like, we have to get on here and talk about it and put them, and put them on blast.
Accountable.
Yeah, man, hold them accountable.
Yes.
And get the media involved and everything. Like time for old politics is gone.
Well, there's one good thing I can tell you. One of the reasons that I chose journalism, first of all, it was the only thing I knew. But every person that has interviewed with me on the Political Power Hour, I have that tape. I have that tape.
There you go,
so no one can say they did or they didn't say something, because Rachelle Wilson I've got the tapes. So, I've recorded the interviews. So we can look back in the archives if necessary and hold people accountable to what they have, the promises that they have made. And me being the old fogey that I am, I certainly will be the first to tap on someone's shoulder and say, didn't you say?
Right.
Something. So, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, Trippi, myself and everyone, we wish you the very best. I know that I can speak for me and my accountability. I will show up with my 10 people. All right. I pray that everyone out there, when Trippi Congo calls us to Dover or wherever to stand up for Wilmington to be a better Wilmington, that we will all show up with 10 more people. So, Trippi, leave us with something that you just want to say to the people, and we'll close out with that.
Just want to thank everyone for supporting me, and again, I also want to thank those who didn't. That's always a part of my conversation, because I think that I've learned just as much from those who didn't support me from those who did. So it's important that I'm humble enough and smart enough to realize that, like, what that person is saying, I can't take it personally. That I have to build upon it and do better. Yeah. So I just want to thank everyone for your good reviews, for your negative reviews. I'm taking it all, and I appreciate it. And more than anything, I just need for you to show up.
Yes.
Like people say it every day, and it's kind of awkward. They're saying, Trippi, I'm glad you're in because you can make change. But I can't do it without you. That's the first thing I say back to them. I can't do it alone. Like, it doesn't stop at the election.
That's right.
After the election is when the rubber meets the road. So we're going to need you as the council is going to need you to stay involved and to hold us accountable.
Yes, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, an intimate and in-depth interview with the City Council President-elect come January of 2021. Mm-hmm. We will see him in the seat. And until then, we are still honoring the City Council President, Hanifa Shabazz. But we certainly pray you well. We will keep you in our prayers. And again, we will show up when you call.
All right.
Thank you for doing this interview. We appreciate that.
Right.
And I'll see all of you guys on Sunday. Until then, have a great night. And remember that evil only triumphs when good does nothing. All right. Thanks a lot. Have a great night.